Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning. 17 years remembering September 11th. Our remembrance, our tribute continues. If this is the first time listening to this program, this is as it happened. And, what we do here is we share the sounds and take your calls saying, have we forgotten, and what we can do to become united once again. Republican, Democrat, we were all Americans following September 11th. Somehow we've got to get back to that and, again, embrace that American spirit.
Captain, I would like to remain seated. We are vulnerable and are going to back to the airport and we have our demand, so please remain quiet. Say again. Executive 956, did you understand that transmission?
Yeah, that transmission he said was unreasonable. It sounded like someone said they have a bomb on board.
Sir, did you hear the transmission where the airplane said he had a bomb on board?
Affirmative, he said there was a bomb on board.
That's what we thought. We just we didn't get it clear. That aircraft, you can't get a hold of. Has he turned to the east now?
He's just turned to the east also.
Okay, 956, we had a visual on him. Just stand by.
Do you have a visual on him now?
We did, but we lost him in the turn.
You can make a turn back to a 220 heading. Let me know if you can see him.
We were making a turn at 956. Negative. We're anybody northwest of you.
Okay, American 10-6 and Executive 956, we just lost the target on that aircraft.
Man, Z100, 852. Something weird is going on.
Yeah.
The World Trade Center is on fire.
Oh, my Seriously, the top of the building. We're trying to get information.
Top level of one of the...
News to unfold from New York City.
A plane crashed. Just...
My sister's in that building.
Okay.
And I hope she's okay, and I got to run to New York. Oh, my God, it's complete pandemonium.
All right, first of all, calm down.
There's raining papers and ashes and...
A second plane has now flown in.
Wait, explosion at the Pentagon?
A third location outside of New York and outside of Washington.
I don't have words to describe what I'm witnessing right now.
Effective immediately until further notice, flight operations in the national airspace system by United States civil aircraft and foreign civil and military aircraft are prohibited.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
On itself, and it is.
It just landed on Manhattan.
All right, so now we look back up to the TV. One of the World Trade Towers has collapsed and fallen.
I've never seen anything like this.
I've got 5 patients. They need to be... We got an ambulance full of cops and pedestrians. Building just collapsed. Don't have much more. I've got another tower that just came down, 1013. All the cops away from the building. You got a female officer down. Female officer, where are you now, King? Where are you, King? Where are you?
We're not going to be stopped. We're not going to be deterred. We're not going to stay at home. We're not going to be frightened. We're going to live our lives as Americans.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
We're all brothers. We all got to stick together.
One nation, under God, indivisible.
Where are you, King?
September the 11th, 2001. In both Washington, D.C. and New York City, it's business as usual. In a grassy field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, It's the seconds before 8:42 on a clear, crisp blue sky morning. All of America was basking in comfortable innocence.
Okay, my name is Betty Ong. I'm number 3 on flight 11.
Okay.
And the cockpit is not answering their phone. And there's somebody staffed in business class, and we can't breathe in business class. Somebody's got mace or something, and we can't get the cockpit. The door won't open.
We have some planes. Just stay quiet and we'll be okay. We're returning to the airport.
Do we want to think about scrambling aircraft?
Oh, God, I don't know. All right, Boston Center, Team U. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York. We need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, this is not an exercise, man, a test.
That was an explosion. That was an explosion.
September the 11th, 2001. Paul McCartney.
Heather and I were just on the runway, ready to leave JFK, heading back to England. The captain said we are about 6 or 7 planes away from taking off. And then he got on the intercom shortly after and he said, there's been a terrible accident in New York. Those of you off the right-hand side of the plane can see. We looked out and could see one of the Twin Towers on fire. And so the whole thing, the whole atrocity unfolded in front of our eyes.
C-100 Elvis Duran.
It was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous blue-skied morning doing our radio show here in New York, and we got a call from one of our listeners that said there's smoke coming out of the World Trade Center.
Outside, and I'm watching it from my terrace. It is unbelievable. I'm shaking.
There it was, sure enough, and we didn't know what was going on. We looked closer, and we noticed there was a hole in the building, and then the rumors started. All the employees were watching as another plane slammed into the other World Trade Center building.
This is Tom Hughes in Atlanta. You can see it on television. A second plane, a large plane, a jet, flew into the building. A second plane has now flown in.
I have a perfect view of both buildings. Giant gaping hole in both sides of the top of each building. Unbelievable amounts of smoke coming out of each building.
And then it just hit us. This is really wrong. And that's how our day started.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
Both buildings, the South Building and the North Building. We also have reports that there was a suspicious aircraft seen right before the explosion at the Pentagon. High-ranking officials at the Pentagon are also saying that there was indeed an airplane explosion at the Pentagon.
You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller with you. Remembering September 11th. More sounds of that day and more of your phone calls next on KIDO Talk Radio. Where were you 17 years ago today? More of the sounds of September 11th coming up. To Pro-Life, who joins us now on 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Pro-Life.
Yeah, I remember where I was. I was working at a Caterpillar dealer in Nevada, and we listened while we were working, and boy, it was terrible. But anyway, Sharia law from the Islamic religion is invading all of the Western nations, and it shouldn't be doing that. We should have learned our lesson from 9/11. And we have a group here in Idaho that we will have a meeting just by chance every month. On the second Tuesday, we have a meeting. There's about 20 of us, 25 of us that are trying to keep Sharia law from being in the United States. And so you can find me in the phone book under Pro-Life if you want to come to that meeting. And but anyway, the United States was taken into that. The Twin Towers was planned. It took us into the Middle East. We're still there, and it's a one world government kind of program to create a huge amount of refugees coming out of the Middle East, going to all of the Western nations, and then that will modify all of those nations, and we will have to have a one-world government. That's the idea in a lot of planners' minds, and I'm not going to buy it. But anyway, we just really mourn for those people that got killed and their families and the people that don't know really what happened there. But it was a planned thing, and our government covered up the...
See, I don't think anybody really believes that.
Yeah, they do. I do.
Yeah, I think you're the only one.
Well, okay. I'll have to stand by myself. But anyway...
Well, and you've done that before, and
yeah.
Like I said, you know, I just don't see that happening.
Well, one of those buildings was Building 7. It came down in a controlled demolition, and it was never hit by a plane.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there at the time, but I was there 3 weeks after, and I saw the devastation for myself.
Yeah, well, you have to study Building 7. You know, that was a pretty big building.
I just want to study the people that we lost. But I want to end this because I want to get back to the sounds. Why don't you offer a quick prayer for all those who died that day? And I promise you and I will debate this as we do so many issues here on KIDO Talk Radio. But a quick prayer.
Okay. Father in heaven, bless all of our people, that they will remember this day, that they will stand for freedom. Bless us all that we will never give up on following Jesus Christ and God, that we will always be kind but never give in to evil. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. God bless, my friend.
All right.
Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio.
Jim Ducey.
Thank you, Jim. Let's hear more of those sounds from that day 17 years ago on KIDO Talk Radio.
Marine 6 to Manhattan, urgent. Marine 6. Howard 2 has had a major explosion and what appears to be a complete collapse.
An unbelievable scene in New York City. It's hard to believe this is happening.
The building just collapsed.
The building came down.
All 15, 20 stories, what was remaining of the building has come down completely to the ground.
Yep, 110 stories high has completely fallen.
Large chunks are falling down to the street, and it's basically gone.
Was that United 93?
Gigantic rumble folded in on itself and collapsed in a huge plume of smoke and dust.
Is that United 93 calling?
We got a building collapse with officers possibly trapped in the train station.
93, go ahead. United 93.
There's also been a crash of a 767 in western Pennsylvania.
Well, I'm in Somerset County, Pennsylvania.
And a couple of the guys, they had decided to jump on the hijacker with the bomb. He said, "Are you ready? Let's roll."
A belly flop and a nosedive right into the ground.
Portion of the Pentagon has come crashing down. Those planes apparently hijacked. American Airlines says it will be planning to release a statement in just about a half hour from now. Air traffic is at a halt across this country.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
Donald Trump.
I lost numerous friends at the World Trade Center, one of whom was making a speech up at the windows of the world. A very, very sad day.
The situation right now is a massive rescue effort that's going on right now. We're trying to evacuate thousands and thousands of people. We have as many of our police and fire personnel as we have down in the southern part of Manhattan, evacuating people, trying to save as many lives as possible.
We're really just on top of the pile. Profound stillness. Part of the stillness is intentional. People are listening for any sound that might indicate life in some way.
Never has anything like this happened in this country. And for these people who weren't studying to be nurses or doctors to be exposed to what they had to see during the demolition and cleanup was just something that actually changed many of their lives.
The tricky thing to do is to take a collapsed building apart carefully enough so that if there are any people alive inside, perhaps in a coma, which can help them live longer, they won't get further hurt by shifting rubble.
You have to use cameras, listening devices, and things like that. They even have scent detectors now that we can literally pinpoint a spot where a victim we have here. It looks like a pancake type situation where everything's piled on top of everything.
We're going to continue to search for people and look for people, at the same time realizing that the losses here are staggering.
Our hearts and prayers are with those who have lost their lives. We'll always continue to have hope. Time is working against us, however.
The odds of saving people is very slim.
It's amazing. Every time I come out here and I look at it, I get a little choked up and I have to go back inside.
Aerosmith's Steven Tyler.
Because of the movies and so much special effects, I think everybody saw that, but personally speaking, I don't think I'm going to feel the magnitude. I saw it, I felt the horror, but to be down there and look at, a half a mile square of rubble, I mean, it's going to really hit home, and I'm just, I need that. I'm not sure whether it's a beginning for another reality for me or closure to something that happened, but I want to go down there and see that.
They're saying that a lot of the firemen are drenched and they need change of clothes. They need different socks and stuff, so we just thought we'd come down here.
Do you have any pants over here?
That's about all I can do.
Socks?
Just shake somebody's hand, look them in the eye, and say thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot, man. God bless you.
Do you have any T-shirts right in the middle? Pants right over on this side if you have any pants.
I came over to donate the clothes and shoes because I'm sure that there's people that will need it. That they said that they were wet and they need to change into new clothes so they can continue working.
Oh, we love them. We appreciate. They're from not only the New York City area, but we are finding out they're all from all over the other states as well. Massachusetts we had seen, Connecticut. So we're happy that they're helping us.
We love you and we appreciate that outpouring of support, but we have enough manpower now. We have enough people, and we're urging them to just say, we want to say to them, thank you, come back, and we'll tell you when to come back. Join their fire department, help the Salvation Army and Red Cross go through their relief efforts, donate blood. These are all things that people out there who want to help can do right in their home communities that could be of enormous help as we go forward.
People out here working their hearts out to answer families' questions, to remove the rubble and debris from this awful scene.
Tom Cruise.
The men of Engine 1, Ladder 24, whose firehouse was across the street from Father Mike's friary, picked up his body and carried him from the rubble. They took him to St. Peter's Church and laid him at the altar, tenderly, and then they went back to Ground Zero and did their work. Because that's what firefighters do.
Tangled, twisted steel, concrete, an enormous pile. And all around this pile, pieces of heavy equipment picking at pieces of debris. There's one claw that's picking at a steel I-beam. And all around us, it's a city of workers, uniformed firefighters, police, union workers. Everyone with a job, some sitting and resting, others looking at debris sections. Everyone doing something.
It's hard. There's 5,000 people that are missing, and the crane operators take away a pile of stuff, and the firemen go in and dig through the rubble looking for people. Then they come out and they take another scoop away, and just endless work, just nonstop.
It's intense. Everyone's working together, though, hand in hand. There's no heroes, there's no team. Everybody's working together. It's a hell of an effort.
Julia Roberts.
At 2:30 in the morning, a group of workers at the Pentagon hoisted the American flag. And as the stars and stripes flew over the crash site, everyone there, medics, police, federal agents, firefighters, and rescue personnel, burst into applause. Our flag was still there.
Donald Trump.
Rudy Giuliani is a great friend of mine who really did a terrific job as mayor. He showed courage, he showed instinct, he showed all of the things that you needed to have, and there was nobody that worked harder than him. He was a terrific mayor at a horrible time in the city.
That yes, they've taken some of our most precious lives, but they have not taken our spirit. The spirit of democracy is stronger than these cowardly terrorists who attacked us. This city is the greatest city in the world. It has the greatest people, and a bunch of cowardly terrorists can't make us fearful. We're stronger than they are. We're better than they are. And people of the city proved it yesterday. They're going to prove it today. And they're going to be a great example of what Americans are like.
actress Edie Falco.
Thank you to the people in the city of New York, where I live. It's been an incredible. If you haven't been there, you can't imagine what it's been like. To the New York Yankees, to the Yankee fans, equally inspirational, and to the people, to the person who I believe truly has acted best in the last year, and that's our fair mayor, Rudy Giuliani. Thank you.
Winston Churchill, the leader of war-torn England, who saw his country through the Battle of Britain with bombings every day, once said, "Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities, because it's the quality which guarantees all others. Without courage, nothing else can really happen. The tears have to make you stronger. Every time you cry, you have to remember that we're right and they're wrong. We are bound together. We're going to remain bound together. We honor the memory of your loved ones. And together, I believe, they are in heaven, praying for us and giving us the strength that we're going to need, because America will prevail." Thank you, and God bless you.
America will prevail. You're listening to Kevin Miller, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Your thoughts 17 years later after those attacks. September 11th continues on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
KIDO Talk Radio, remembering September 11th. We go to our old friend, John Mounts. You remember John Mounts, a young man who has been with us for many, many years, even though he's never been to Idaho. And if he has, I'm sure he'll correct me on that now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. And no, I've never been to Idaho.
That's good for you. Let's talk.
It's a good place. It's a nice place. I just haven't been there.
Well, maybe someday.
We can hope.
Maybe someday you and I will work again together.
Maybe.
Maybe you could be my boss. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about September 11th and what you were doing 17 years ago today.
Well, Kevin, as you remember, I was looking across the glass at you, and you were hosting the morning show here in Birmingham, and I was producing you doing the morning show in Birmingham. And we were doing, ironically, an interview about the impact of media on national events with a professor from the local university here. And when he was on the air with us, we were going to take a break. We went to commercial break, as I recall. It was in the Central Time Zone, about 45, I think we took the break. And that was when we got the report of the fire at the top of one of the World Trade Center buildings. And we broke it, which we never do this. We broke into the commercial break, and you went back on the air and said, "There's a fire at the top of one of the World Trade Center buildings." And then you said, "Wait, do we have this now?" And then we had it from the newsroom that it wasn't a fire but a plane. And if you remember how quickly things escalated, it was a plane, first a small plane, and then a large plane, and then before you knew it, we were watching as the second plane. We all were sitting there watching on television, listening on the radio, experiencing it together collectively as the second plane hit. And for that moment, America was changed.
Right, and just dealing with that sheer emotion, all of a sudden, we were on all of the radio stations, taking calls, taking news, trying to process it, and trying to share the story with our listeners, as people across the country were doing, and wondering where the president was. It was quite a long day.
It was like drinking from a fire hose, the way the news came in that day. And if you remember, because I guess as it is in most radio clusters, people who don't work in the industry don't always realize all the radio stations, or usually have multiple radio stations in the same building for the same company. And everybody from all the music stations all came down the hallway to our studio and crammed in behind you, because our studio had all those television sets lined up on all the channels, and every single one of them had the coverage, and they were all crammed into our studio, and we kept having to tell them to be quiet because we had to keep people informed as things were unfolding. And people, and it was just the amount of news that just kept coming and coming, and then the Pentagon, and then the Pennsylvania, and everything as it unfolded that day. You can't forget it.
Right, and then the response. And I'm thinking about how young we were. I was, 33, and how old were you?
Well, I guess that'd make me 24.
Something like that, yeah. And here we are trying to figure out what to do and whether or not our area, like in Idaho and other parts, would be attacked, and trying to figure out a response. I can still remember the day when I had this idea, and I did, it was you and me, and we just tried to figure out what we would do, how to make the story real, if you will. Not real, but real to our listeners. How to
bring it home. And yeah, we met and we said, you know what we got to do? We got to go there. We got to find a way to bring the story home, and that's when we cooked up that plan to get you to New York. And the trouble was, of course, all the airplanes, they suspended travel for not just that day, but for several days. I don't think they resumed travel until probably Thursday. And even on Thursday, it was an issue of there's so many people stranded in places. It's not like you're going to be able to get a flight on Thursday. So it took us a while to get you to New York, and I think you had to pay your own way to get you there.
No, it wasn't we. It was you and me. And look, I paid that out of my pocket. We were the first local show outside of New York to go to Ground Zero, and then everybody followed. But more importantly, there was a magic that came from that, and we met a young man that really influenced a lot of people, and it showed the spirit of America.
It did. Which one? Because we met a bunch of people there. We from Nino.
Well, I mean, you were back in Alabama. And I love the story that you and I went out and bought a cassette recorder.
I went to the Kmart, which tells you how long ago this was. I went to the Kmart across the street from the radio station. I bought a $19 tape recorder because that's the best we could do to record audio while we were up there.
Right. So then we run into a gentleman owning a restaurant, or I ran into him.
Yes, Nino, who had a restaurant there at Ground Zero, and he opened his doors not for regular business, but to feed the workers, the relief workers at Ground Zero, because at the time there was hopes that we would still find people alive in the wreckage, so they were working, round-the-clock shifts, 12-hour shifts going in and looking, and these people, they needed food and water and that sort of thing, and so Nino opened his kitchen, opened his restaurant, and he was able to feed all those first responders who were down there working the wreckage.
Right, and if you wanted to volunteer, you couldn't. The Red Cross, the United Way would not let people volunteer, but Nino did, and because of that, and again, this is the magic of the spoken word of radio, here I am stumbling and bumbling through, and this man and his 85-year-old wife or mother.
His mother.
Thank you. Took me in and asked people to come from all over the world, and they did.
And we were able to send some people from Alabama up there. I mean, they had to also find out how to get themselves there, but we were able to make. I can't say we did anything big that day, but we made a difference, I think.
And you still remember that day. You still remember the craziness of it all.
Absolutely. It's something, last night, Kevin, I have a daughter. She's 8 years, almost 9 years old. So she wasn't alive for any of this. And last night I broke out some old books from 9/11, and I was showing her the pictures of what happened, and she was asking, questions. Why did that happen? Why were those people so angry at us? And I had to explain everything, and it still kind of chokes you up a little bit when you think about, what had happened.
The overall sadness, and then the response. It was amazing, and local radio making a difference.
And, for that one day, maybe for that couple weeks, we were all Americans, and we were all on the same page. We weren't divided. We weren't, arguing about who's to blame or anything like that. We came together as Americans, which it's kind of sad that it takes a tragedy like that to bring us together as a nation.
And we talked about that the news was on every TV station. The news was on every radio station.
And it changed the way news was done. It wasn't until then that the live, because now we take it for granted. Every single one of the cable channels is always breaking news running across the screen and the word live in the corner and all. That was when that started. Before then, it was just news at the top of the hour, regularly scheduled news, and it took something big to be a live newscast. But that's what made it to where now everything is live breaking news. From then, it totally changed the industry.
Right. But you go back to that emotion of that day and talking to the firefighter who thought he was going to die and prayed to God.
Sean, right?
Yeah, Sean, yeah. And then the generosity of this restaurant owner who bankrupted himself. Amazing stories of courage that are, indescribable.
Absolutely.
John Mounts, we appreciate you. It wouldn't be our September 11th show without you.
Glad I could be of assistance yet again.
I don't know about yet again. Thank you, John. We appreciate it. Let's go to Terry in State College, Pennsylvania. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Kevin. We're doing a great job of taking us back and helping us remember, and I think it's important that we never, ever forget this. Yeah, that was very difficult because 1.5 hours to the west of our house was Somerset, 3 hours to the east was Washington, 4.5 hours to the north was New York. Parents of 5 young children, are we being attacked? You know, where's this coming from? Will it affect us? On campus, we've got a nuclear reactor and the only submarine propulsion laboratory in the country made us a secondary target. We were worried, and so were all of our neighbors, and quite sobering even from that far away. We had firefighters, friends who went up and helped. In fact, they never made it even to the center of Ground Zero. We had talked to them when they came back later, but they were of a major asset, they said. And I want to concur with pro-life, Building 7, and it was reported that had been planned and was a controlled demolition that brought Building 7 down. Why at a later point did they confirm that? I don't know. Why didn't they tell us right away? I don't know. There's a lot of variables. But, yeah, we thought, Kevin, we're next. And I say this, I hope you understand how I say this, but we were relieved to find out that it was independent terrorists that had done this and was not a nation state such as China, Russia, somebody like that, which had much greater capability. And it's hard to explain to the children. I think Vanessa and I were discussing this morning. I think that's the one time that we were thankful that we did not have cable TV, and because we had turned that off when the first one was born, because we didn't want them programmed by the well, you know what they're being programmed by. So all we had was radio. We had shortwave, and we were getting all the news we could. And I'm glad my children didn't get the visual of that until they got a little bit older. And then we were able to show them, films and that of it. But very sobering.
It brings everything. It brings everything into perspective.
Boy, it's right straight in your face. Let's remember too. Osama bin Laden's sister was at the Bush Ranch visiting during that time, and because of backlash, they rushed her out of the country. Not because they were saying that she was guilty or anything, but
they rushed out all the members of the bin Laden family during that time. I think there was several. Terry, anything else, sir?
No, he just done a great job, and let's hope that let's pray that America never has to endure that again.
You're right.
Thanks for being there, Kevin.
Thank you, Terry. Very emotional today. Charles in Nampa with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Charles.
Yes, good morning. Yes, I would like to support pro-life. He's not the only one that thinks 9/11 was an inside job.
Well,
I do, and there's an organization called, I think, Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. You can Google these organizations, and these are hundreds of experts who were saying that the World Trade Center could not have come down according to what we've been told. Now, years ago, in 1970s, I worked in New York. I was a foreign trade reporter for the Journal of Commerce, and I knew people over. They had just put up the World Trade Center. I knew people over there. It was like $2 or $3 billion they spent on it, and someone high up there told me, he said, the reason why the World Trade Center was built was that Nelson Rockefeller wanted to hide several billions of dollars that had been built up in the Port Authority of New York, and they didn't want to spend it on subways or mass transit. So they put up these buildings, which were never economically feasible. The deal is that these banks, the Rockefeller banks and other banks, want to keep us in debt, perpetual debt, and that's exactly what's been happening. But as far as It was an inside job.
Well, Charles, we can debate that another day, and we will. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to Brian in Nampa. Brian, good morning.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, Brian.
I was in Building 25 here in Boise working for HP as a backup admin, and if you've ever worked in IT, you know how busy we are, and it was just everything stopped. It was just very humbling. And I just want to bring this point up. Christ said that if anybody laid down their life for the brother, they would basically, make it in heaven. And other than the nation coming together and praying, what impressed me so much was so many people did that. Firefighters, people on the fourth plane. It was just very humbling. And also, we were all in shock, but in a weird way, it was a little bit spiritual because as we learned the stories of these firefighters and all these heroes that laid down their lives for others, it was just inspiring. So I just kind of wanted to end on that note. We can debate all this stuff about why it happened and all that, but I think we need to remember that today, and that's basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Brian.
You bet.
What is that in Scripture, that no greater love than a man give up his life for his friend? Traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning.
Meteorologist Jim Duthie.
Steven Tyler.
We've been given the opportunity to be a part of a high-grade investment here, to rid the world of terrorism. Just like the Berlin Wall was taken down by a guitar, I believe Keith Richards said. We can do it. We can keep the spirit alive.
George Strait.
The American spirit. Before September the 11th, many of us wouldn't have known how to describe it or even given it much thought. But today, when Americans use the words patriotism, strength, and unity, they do more than roll off our tongues. They come from our hearts. On September the 11th, we remembered what our flag stands for. We also remembered what a true hero is. A true hero puts others before himself.
On behalf of my brother John and the 12 members from Ladder 3 that we've lost, the 20 members of the New York City Fire Department football team that we've lost, and all the people from my neighborhood, my hometown, Rockaway Beach, Queens, New York, our friends, our neighbors, our relatives, they are not gone because they are not forgotten. And I want to say one more thing. In the spirit of the Irish people, Osama bin Laden, you can kiss my royal Irish.
Today, the nation pays our respects to them.
I realize how much I'll truly miss you and how much I truly love you. You were the best father I could ever ask for. I miss you, and I hope you didn't hurt too much.
I love you, Daddy. I miss you a lot. Richard Anthony Acheta.
We'll always remember those flood of emotions that all of us felt. The numbing shock, the anguish, and yes, even the anger. As we watched throughout the day, the news unfold.
My loving father, Patrick Adams, we love you and miss you.
It is now 9:11 p.m. Eastern Time, and we ask that you please rise and join us as we partner with all of Major League Baseball and pause now to remember the victims of September 11th with a moment of silence.
And there we have it. May God keep you and your family, your thoughts and prayers as we remember the fallen. We so appreciate you listening. We apologize for our signal issues. We hope to get that fixed soon. Glenn Beck is next. God bless. Ray, outstanding job as always. And keep the faith, everyone.